Hello, everybody, and welcome to another American Scouser podcast. Today, I have the hosting duties, timucin, and with me today we have Jamie and Parker. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Fantastic.
Not too
So,
bad here.
we did not finish the year, obviously, the way we want to. We're actually recording this one. This feels almost odd. We're recording this podcast on New Year's Eve. Earlier in the day, instead of a cold beverage, we have coffee. Well, most of us do, but that's an that's another intervention podcast by itself for Parker there. But okay, bit too early in
The
the day, buddy.
American Scouser podcast.
Any alcoholic beverage before 11 a.m. is kind of shady, but I'll give you that. It's 11:07 at least over here. So okay.
It's noon, so
So let's talk about the game first. Obviously, like I say, these back-to-back games not really finishing the way we would want to. I think we almost it feels more like a blown opportunity than anything else. When you look at the end result, we're still top of the league and stuff. So we'll get to all those. So let's start with the game first. Do kind of like a quick recap of it. So the lineup comes up. We have Phillips instead of Williams and Millie instead of Genie. Um, Obviously, it's hindsight now, and there's a lot of things that we do not know in terms of who could have played how many minutes and stuff like that. But Jimmy, let's start with you. Like, what did you think of the lineup when you first saw it, and obviously like throughout the game, at least the first half?
I was happy enough. I have to say, good to see Milner in the team against the Toon. He knows the club. He knows the Premier League probably better than any current serving member of the Premier League teams. I was very happy with the lineup. And of course, my usual Geordie mates from back home had started the abuse early in the day and texted me, and were winding me up and all sorts of stuff. But they were also very confident that they were going to get absolutely spanked 5-0. One of my Geordie mates said, or worse. Another one of my Geordie mates was taunting me about facing the mighty Joe Linton. It was. I was quietly confident. I'm not usually so bullish towards my friends back home when it comes to games, but when you're facing Newcastle, I kind of got carried away with myself, I gotta admit. But it was one of those things, like you see the stats at the start of the game, and it's like Liverpool are leading the league in passes, blah blah blah, everything all the way down the line. We're first. And on the opposition side, Newcastle, they're 20th in the league at everything, passes, shots on goal, conversion rate, everything, So, yeah, I was quietly looking forward to the game.
And honestly, in terms of like defense, I don't think we have a lot of options. So it's either like Williams or Phillips and stuff like that. But midfield is probably where I've seen the most discussion over like who should have been there and stuff like that. But Parker, what did you make of that? Millie being like replacing Genie in midfield, so midfield of Millie, Hando.
I really liked it. I was pretty all right with it because kind of like Jamie already said, Hendo or not Hendo, Milner is a veteran. He's been in the Premier League for ages, so I like having that. It's nice to keep someone around that knows the league inside out, knows all the teams inside and out, has been here, has done that. I was happy with that. I didn't see a problem with Nat Phillips. I quite like him personally. I think, he's a good player. So I didn't really have any issues, when I saw the starting lineup. I was pretty satisfied with it.
Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, absolutely, to agree with Parker. Phillips in general played well. I know he got burnt by Wilson for pace in the early couple of minutes, but he was doing everything right. He was goal side of the attacker and tried to get him to the byline as much as possible. He just got beat for speed and probably a bit of power as well, because Callum Wilson's a great striker. He's on form right now as well. Newcastle, I think he's got 8 goals, 3 assists this season, which is Newcastle's leading goal scorer and assist. So, fair play to Parker. He's absolutely right there. Nat Phillips slotted in okay at the back, I'd say.
I thought so. I mean, that position was kind of like the one you're talking about was kind of odd. I mean, having played defense all my life and not being gifted with speed, you kind of like it was kind of like almost like odd for him to try to shoulder him off as opposed to just keep cutting the angle and stuff. But aside from that, I mean, I cannot recall a clear mistake, a couple of like missed passes or like mislocated passes and stuff like that. I mean, he's not that great with the long ball coming from the back, but I mean, I thought he was great in the air. I don't think that was an issue overall. I mean, my only concern, I guess, is does it affect the rest of the team? I mean, we've always talked about having, like a good goalie behind you, making the defense play better, having a solid defense behind you, making the rest of the midfield and the forward playing better. That's, I guess, my only concern right now with the odd defensive pairings we have in the back. I don't think they're that poor defensively. It's just that I don't know how it affects what we do otherwise. So you have Hendo and Millie there, and that's probably the only problem with that pairing is I think their first initial thought is always protection as opposed to attack. So now you have 6 people that are thinking that. I mean, yeah, you have Robo and Trent going there, who Trent seems to be way off his like regular pace in terms of like delivery and passing and stuff like that. But I thought like Phillips did fine. I mean, overall, I mean, let's face it, to me, it was not so much different than the Crystal Palace game, except the finishing. Would you agree to that, Jamie?
To a certain extent, yeah. Definitely left the same taste in my mouth, I'll tell you that. I guess the difference between that and the West Brom game is, like you said, we were creating. The game was played well. I honestly feel, but it was just one of those things where again, everything seemed to click in place for the opposition. Again, a couple of players on the opposition played absolute storming games. Brilliant games, best of their season so far. It seems to be a common trend right now that players up their game, teams up their game, coming to play us, and why not? Because we're the champions. We are, and we're the champions elect. Also, we're going through this tough period, and we're still top of the league.
But in terms of the games, I meant like for the Palace game, not the West Bromwich game. I thought we played a lot better than we did in the West Bromwich Albion game, but I felt it was a lot better. I mean, it was very similar to the Crystal Palace game in terms of how we played, gave a couple of chances for them to score too, but everything we got in Crystal Palace game, we just converted. Yeah. Whereas, yesterday it was the complete opposite.
Yeah, and Parker and I were talking, and yourself as well, to mention there just offline, just before we started recording, and Klopp was saying in his post-match interviews, he's like, I have no problem, if I have no problem not scoring if the build-up is there, if the chances are being created. Which, he said something like, I can work with a result like this. It's a 0-0, yeah, and there's been. I read some stat about a crazy amount of 0-0s or something. Anyway, but he's not too downbeat about it. Like, we played well, so I can live with that in much the same way as all of us can. If we can see the intent, see the progression, see the chances, it was just one of those days where we just couldn't finish our breakfast.
What do you think, Parker? I mean, when you compare it to, I personally thought, like I say, gameplay wise, in terms of the level we played, it was not that poor. I mean, you read online, and if 2 of those chances are converted, everybody's raving about how we played. But just because we could not convert those chances, everybody takes it as like, oh, we need changes. We need to now, we're back to we need a creative midfielder thing and stuff like that. Which we'll get back to Thiago because I thought he was excellent.
Thiago,
one of like the silver linings of the game out of like the few. But so what did you think, Parker? I mean, in terms of like how we played, like let's rate it for us out of 10. What do you give it?
If it weren't for the result being a 0-0, I'd probably give it a solid 8, 9 out of 10. I think we played really well, but kind of going back to what Jamie was saying, you got to finish your breakfast. You got to you got to convert on those chances. And a big part of it is, Newcastle's keeper, he was playing incredibly well. He made some unreasonable saves that were way above his level, and he was on it. He is on form right now. So, I mean, credit to him. I don't want to take anything away from him because he did play a very, very good match. And, if you slot any other keeper in there, one of those shots that we had sneaks past, I think we'd be, kind of like you were saying, Timucin, people would be ranting and raving about how good Liverpool was that day, how great it was of a game, all this stuff. I think the results tend to get those reactionary people out that, we get a lot of people saying, the sky is falling, it's the end of the world, Liverpool's done, etc. And I think that's just because, of the draw. I think if one of those shots snuck through, we'd be having a totally different discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I would have taken that ugly tap in if Mane could get a touch on that thing and tapped it in. And I think you were talking about, Jamie. I mean, one of those, I would have taken an ugly goal and the 3 points and run out of there. I mean, it's not an easy place to go to.
No.
With or without fans, doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, I think that 8-9 is generous, but I still think, we played well enough to win and created the chances that would take the win. We just couldn't finish this one of those games. And I think that's why, when we go back and, everybody, like you're saying, like all the doomsday stories and everybody's down and stuff like that, I think it's more of the wasted opportunity than anything else. If I told you in the beginning of the season, Van Dijk, you're going to lose Van Dijk. You're going to lose, all these injuries that we've had, and COVID cases and stuff like that. And I said, but at the end of the year, you're going to be top of the league. You would take it in a heartbeat.
Oh, God. And 7 times out of 7, every day of the week right there. Yeah.
I think it's just the fact that, if we won these last 2 games, obviously we'd have like a better cushion. And I think this is what I hate when people look at the fixtures ahead and like mock them as like 3 points when they see teams. There's really, obviously they're not at the level we are, but especially when you go away, it's not easy to win in the Premier League. That's why it's a tough league. And nobody's doing it on a consistent basis this year. And I think, this team spoiled the fans last year where they were winning every freaking game. But otherwise, you're going to have challenging opponents. That's why I hate when people look at the fixture and say, oh, that's an easy 3 points. There is no such thing as easy 3 points in this Premier League.
Not at all. You start taking things for granted like that. And then that's when winning mentality becomes mediocre, happy with a 0-0. We're not happy with the 0-0. And look, let's get real. This is it, folks. This is life at the top. We are the upper echelon of not just English football, not just European football. We're talking world football here. This is it. It's tough at the top. Life is tough at the top. Everybody's always going to come and try and take you out from the ankles and get a result, and that's their season. If a team comes to us and gets a win, God forbid, that's it. Knock on wood, lads. That's their season made up. They're champions beaters. So that's a title that they'll take with them, and that's also a title that'll go with us. Or like Watford. Watford beat them. Sure, fucking anybody can beat them. You know what I mean? So that's it. Everybody has to step up their game to play us, and I get that. I wouldn't change it because that's got to bring the best out in us as well. And, I get the fact that we were a little misjointed. There was a lot of underhit passes and all the rest. Like we can boil it all down to this microcosm and Trent's not playing perfectly, but scattered in amongst all of that, which is all true, scattered in amongst that were some fucking lovely passes. Like one of those Trent balls that was like 40, 50 yards out to the left wing that, even the commentators didn't seem to admire, but it's just one of those things. Like we had moments of utter brilliance and we had moments of absolute pish. So but back to what I'm saying, that's tough at the top, lads, and that's where we are. That's where we find ourselves. And we're going to come up against these players who are up in their game to us, like Carl Darlow. I mean, Christ of almighty, he was a brick wall. All these keepers turn into Buffon and Casillas overnight when they play us. But as I made a joke, I've got to say it here on the podcast as well. Anybody that spells Carl with a K needs a serious looking at. And Carl Darlow, you're I'm looking at you, kid. All right. But yeah, and Yedlin played out of his skin as well. So all the American fans, didn't he play for the Sounders or something? You know, he played out of his skin too. So just complete unknown entities when teams like that face us, and there is no such thing as an easy game, like you said, Timucin.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's look at some of the silver linings. Yeah, like you're saying, especially in the first half, there were some passes that were a bit behind or not fast enough, or there was a lot of like disjointed, and I know that's being leggy. That's kind of like hard to tell like what the issue there is. Because it just didn't look right, some of the passes and stuff. And like I say, I love Milner, but it's almost like anytime Milner, I mean, against a team that's playing back, having Milner and Hendo at least can move the ball a lot faster and can switch wings. That's probably what he brings the most, aside from his work rate. But it almost like, Milner is always like a 3-step control pass. So it kind of like slows down the ball movement and stuff. But in the second half, so like we get a couple of substitutions in, which I wanted to talk to you guys about subs anyway. But before we get to that, so Thiago comes in, which we've been waiting for a long time. And we kind of like saw a glimpse of it. And then thanks to freaking Richarlison, we didn't see it for a while. Yeah. But instantly, like literally within a minute, you could tell the difference it would bring to the team. So what did you, I mean, I know, I think I saw like one misplaced pass, but just like ridiculous passes to the points. And one thing I think our wingback, like Robo and Trent is going to have to get used to is running to his passes. Because instead of like, those hard on the ground passes that you get from like Fab and, like Hendo and stuff, I mean, he whips that thing in the air to their running lane on the dot. I mean, it was just like amazing to kind of watch. But Parker, what did you make of his brief performance?
It was, a bit short, honestly. I mean, I understand, the fact that, he's coming off an injury and he's obviously not going to go and get slotted in and play a whole 90. But I noticed there was a pretty distinct difference between before he came on and after he came on. The team looked different. It looked like we were flowing better. We were gelling better. I think once Thiago is back into full fitness, we're going to be cooking again. It just sucks that his start was cut so short by Richarlison, because I think too that, obviously hindsight 2020, you can say whatever you want about what ifs, but I think if we had him this whole season, we definitely would be in a little bit more comfortable position. Not that we're in an uncomfortable position right now. I mean, either way, we're top of the league. I ain't complaining about it. I just think that a lot of the people that are kind of that, like I said, the sky's falling, apocalypse is coming type, they'd be a little more satisfied, I guess, if we had Thiago this whole season. But I think good things are coming. I think now that he's back, as he gets more fit, I think we're going to be happy campers out here.
Yeah, I mean, his vision is like unreal, and obviously his like passing is, I mean, the guy is like one of the top midfielders in the world, I mean, despite his age and everything like that. So, I mean, one thing I noticed, I think it was that football/soccer documentary on Amazon had an episode, and one of them was, like the first episode was those guys like that were like Liverpool fans and stuff. I can't remember the name of the freaking documentary now. But one of the episodes was actually on Messi, and it was like talking about how like he kind of like when he doesn't have the ball, he kind of like surveys the field and stuff like that.
Yeah, the first 5 minutes of every game. Yeah, he does that.
And then, like even when he's kind of like moving around, he's constantly looking around, like behind them, like around them and stuff like that. I mean, they were showing like clips of him kind of like looking around, and he gets the ball and he knows where the space is. There was a moment, I mean, obviously, Thiago is constantly trying to come to the ball and come open and stuff like that. I mean, there was a moment literally, and I don't know, I was literally watching him because I think that was kind of like a highlight at the time because he was changing the game so much. Yeah, he was literally looking around, and then he received the ball, and he did like a one-time pass to, I think it was like Bobby right in front of the box without even looking, knowing that pass was already open there. So
Yeah.
that vision is going to be amazing to watch. And yeah, against these teams that are sitting back, that is probably our key weapon. And I would think in the second half of the season, let's hope we see a lot of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, 17 minutes the man had on the pitch. And like you said, he changed it almost immediately. And the way he spreads those passes, some of those outside of the boot, you know, the one I'm talking about where he's like kind of half volley, standing on one foot and just swings the right boot at it, hits it with the outside of the boot. It's just the control. It's almost like he even can control the ball in midair. You know what I mean? It's unreal. And, you know, it's unbelievable. Like his song, his Tiago song, like he moves through the midfield like nobody does. No, all of this is absolutely true. This song was made and came out the day he signed for us. You know what I mean? So he moves through the midfield like nobody does. True. Ding. Tick mark right there. The first time I saw him, I knew it was love. The wife can attest to that because she's been listening to me sing his song non-bloody stop. She's got the words down herself. I've been singing it that bloody much. He'll roll you like a Cuban. His passes never miss. Thiago Alcantara, he takes the fucking piss. And lads, it's just great to watch him, isn't it? Like he even had 4 headers or something. Like I don't think he's that tall. He's definitely not 6 feet.
Yeah, see what he kind of almost reminds me of like Mane, even though he does not have the height, he has like the hop.
Yeah,
and
the athleticism.
I mean, he does not shy away from, you know, jumping into somebody much taller. And yeah,
which I was worried with his injury and everything, you know.
Yeah.
But he didn't shy away from anything, you know, and just great to see him on the pitch because those 17 minutes were certainly amongst the highlights to walk away from this game with, you know.
He's 5'9", by the way, so not
he's 5'9",
remotely a tall guy.
5'9".
Really? Honestly, I thought I was gonna go like 5'7" or something like that if I was just gonna guess off the top of my head. But so let's go back to those 17 minutes because overnight Klopp has become a bad manager. If you look at all the Facebook groups and stuff like that, I mean, here's my take on the whole sub thing, and I want to really hear what you guys think. But with Thiago, I mean, we don't know. I would think if he was able to give 30 to 45 minutes, he probably would have been on there earlier. So we don't know what's the reason behind, you know, him coming in so late and stuff like that. So it's kind of like hard and probably unfair to speculate on that. Shaq coming in on the 91st minutes, I'm lost on that. And the only thing I can think of is either Salah was injured, really pissed Klopp off, or, you know, he was going to come in and it's just like the way it just didn't pan out. So I just didn't understand. That's something like a team that's actually trying to finish the game off would do. Do like a last minute substitution to slow things down and stuff. So I don't know. But here's the thing. I mean, with Klopp, I've never kind of like been a huge fan of how he used the subs, win or lose, even in the past. Like let's look back very recently, like the Crystal Palace game. A game we won 7-0, a game where we're always talking about like resting players and all that kind of stuff. And we did not really make substitutions. I mean, I think Genie, when I looked, came in at like 69th or 70th minute or something like that. And like Ox or somebody came in at like almost close to 80. And we were already 5-0 up. So why not make those substitutions earlier? Having said that, I mean, over his time, I think that's his way of instilling confidence on the 11 that's out there, saying you're out there for a reason. We've talked about this. Everybody knows what to do. So I'm going to put the faith in that, faith in you guys, faith on the team, and that's how it goes. And that's the thing. Like, even in the past, I've always thought, and this is why I could probably never be a coach in the top level, because I don't have the freaking patience for it. So I'd be like, yeah, I'll put that guy. And, you know, I did youth soccer, which is great because you can do as many substitutions as you want. So, so you can just experiment like a mad scientist and doesn't matter. So this is how it's always been. So if you didn't complain before, don't come complaining now, because this is how it's always been. And I really think, you know, we always talk about how he interacts with the team, the confidence he gives to players, how he improves players. And I think this is part of it. The fact that he trusts the 11 out there, he trusts the plan and, you know, the process, if you will, and then, you know, like tries to go with it as long as possible and then tweaks it if he really feels like he needs to. What did you guys think of that? I mean, is it fair to? I mean, I always have felt that he waits for the substitutions too late into the game, win or lose. I mean, there have been a lot of games I felt we were winning comfortably, and it was a good time to, back then it was like get Taki some more minutes or Ox some more minutes or whatever. And I felt like, why do we wait till like 80 to put him in? Like, it's like 10 minutes. What does that do? Kind of deal. But going back to that, this is his style. This is how he coaches, and you can't freaking argue with the results. So I feel it's unfair to come now and say, well, why didn't he do it? So Jamie, let's start with you. Like, what is your overall take on, I mean, not only substitutions in this game, but I guess in general?
I think, like you've said, there's a lot of unforeseen things, X, Y, and Z behind the scenes that could affect all of those substitution decisions. I would tend to agree with you. I think Shaq coming in at the 92nd minute was probably it's a waste. Maybe not a waste. I can't explain it. Obviously, the red zone that these players are in and monitored affects how much game time they can actually get. Genie, we know, has played a lot of minutes. So I was expecting him to sort of be the first substitution in. Then I was expecting Thiago. And then, then we could have done something if we needed.
I actually thought Ox because, he was fit, right?
Yeah, and exactly. And like we sort of spoke about, Barack and I spoke about with the West Brom game, it's like, it's great to have a player like Ox there where you have that low block side and they're not really being too adventurous. It's good to throw a couple of pop shots in from the outside of the box every once in a while to kind of scare them and push them back. But yeah, I mean, back to the sub things, like you said, that's Klopp's style. He always loves, you'll never see a substitution probably before the 60th minute unless there's a reason to. And I'm fine with that in general. I love the way he manages games when we're in the 80th minute and we're 2-0 up and it's time to get two new legs on. I love that shithousery, that game management where you can just run the clock out when you can afford to. But on the flip side of that, a game like Newcastle, you're ended up questioning the great man like Klopp, which, never really a good idea, because we don't know the ins and outs, because we don't know exactly how the great man operates himself. But a lot of fans calling for a plan B or earlier subs or, and like we were saying about the whole Thiago thing, 17 minutes isn't necessarily enough to affect the game, even though he'd done everything but score. He even had a nice shot there that oh my God, if that had flew in, I'd have been still singing the Thiago song, but which I mean I pretty much am anyway. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? When you can't for certain know the ins and outs, it's mind-boggling to try and figure out as a bystander what those substitutions meant and would it have been better had we have changed it up a little earlier. So it's difficult to say, but I can certainly see every fan's frustration at that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Klopp has his reasons. I'm sure they're all much smarter and well more informed than all of our opinions. So yeah, I mean, it's a hard one to take, and it's a hard one to sort of explain. But there has to be some sort of reason, which I bloody well don't know.
And that's the thing. I mean, I'm not saying, you should never question his decision making. I mean, he's human. He'll be the first one to admit that he makes mistakes. I just think that this is nothing new. So to kind of like make that the issue in this game, you haven't been watching for a while then.
Right. And just another thing.
Has operated throughout. And
just one more thing. So let's say we did win 1-0 or 2-0. The substitution thing's a non-topic then. If we won 1-0, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about Shaqiri in the 92nd minute. It's all horses for courses, So it's a crazy game with infinite number of variables. So And I guess that's our job, to sit here and dig it all out and rehash it all and see what could have been made different. But at the end of the day, it's all hypothetical and like Parker said, if it's a 1-0 or like you said, Timucin, if it's a 1-0 or a 2-0, one of those chances gets bundled in, we're talking a different story here.
What is your overall take? Parker, like I say, we've been following this team for a while. Obviously Klopp the entire time. And honestly, this is, from what I read in like different articles, this is exactly the way he did it when he was in Dortmund too.
Yeah,
so, nothing.
I think it's just his playing style, or his managing style, rather. I think kind of like what Jamie said, I definitely agree with the fact that Klopp definitely knows a lot more about me, about the managing time kind of thing. He's a Premier League coach. He was a Bundesliga coach. His level of knowledge is scores above mine. So, I think it's just one of those things that it's something that there is reasoning for it that's above you and me. It's above our knowledge. It's above what we know about. And I trust him. It's not like it's really burnt us horribly yet. There's 1 or 2 times we've had injuries late, but nothing that was like that person should have been subbed and they wouldn't have gotten injured. They were just, unlucky occurrences that have happened. So I don't know. I don't really see it as something that's hurting the team actively.
I'd say again as well, like much like a goalkeeper. So when a goalkeeper gets 4 or 5 great saves, that's newsworthy. But if a goalkeeper lets in a blunder, a real howler of a goal, that's even bigger news. Bad news sells, good news doesn't really. So the amount of times that Klopp gets substitutions right kind of goes under the radar. But when there's a discussion to be had about some of the substitutions, it gets brought into the mainstream media a little more, I would say, as well.
Yeah, like I said, there's always, here's the thing, we're always talking afterwards. So it's always hindsight. So we could have, there are a lot of times there was like, oh man, that substitution was like 5 minutes too late kind of thing. But, well, yeah, that's easier to say afterwards than before. I just felt like while I did not agree and I probably would have subbed in, Ox or somebody like that earlier, it's just the way he has operated throughout. And if you took the success with it, you can't come back and question the style as much now. But like I said, I've always thought, we waited too long. We wait too long to make those substitutions. Mm-hmm. But you can't argue with the results from the past. So you kind of have to give the fate. So, after all this, while we were kind of like disappointed that we probably should have had like a 4-point lead above like the closest person, we might be tied with the damn United of all people going into, but at least we're top of the league, finishing 2020 as the top of the league. And like I say, if you look back and I told you all the shit that was going to happen to us over the last few months, you would have taken that. And
I'd ask you what's in that coffee if you had told me all of those things. some ayahuasca or whatever the hell, some witch doctor madness you're drinking over there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You it's crazy season, and putting it back to our champions season. This time last year we were 13 points clear. Yeah, crazy. So you take the good with the bad, and sure, isn't that 2020 all over? Really, isn't it?
So, well, that's a great stuff right there. Let's talk about 2020. So the last day, obviously, it's been some freaky year. 10 years from now, we'll probably look back and God knows what we'll say. So we'll go about that. And I want to ask you guys what you will say. But let's talk about in terms of like Liverpool or as sports as a whole. So, Parker, let's start with you. What would you say is your top sport moment? I'm assuming all of us is going to have the same one, right? So we get that out of the way. Let's get that out of the way before we even go around. And I'm assuming like we all had the same one. But when was, I guess, let's go with the goal. What was one goal that you vividly remember from the title run? in 2020?
I think Trent's free kick. I can't remember who it was against off the top of my head now, but
Chelsea or Palace?
After COVID.
Yes, I think
Palace?
it was Chelsea.
Yeah, Palace.
Oh, Palace or
yes.
Chelsea. No, he had 2 lovely free kicks. You're absolutely right.
I can't remember which one it was, but whatever one was the one that, practically speaking, sealed the lead. You know, that was the game that got us the win, and then it must have been Palace because Chelsea beat City.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was Palace. That free kick was, it was just a beauty. He cranked that thing in, calm as anything, just buried it. I think that was definitely my number 1 goal for the year because...
Especially as Lampard is bitching in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie, what is yours?
Well, lads, can we mention Willian's penalty? Surely we're not going to have Willian's penalty be the best Liverpool goal of 2020. No, we're not having that, are we? It's up there. It's in my top 5 memories, but it's not the one. Sorry, Willian. But like Parker said, Trent's free kicks after the restart were something else. Fabinho had a lovely couple of strikes as well. I did want to mention the little Shaqiri assist to Jota's goal against West Ham. That was lovely as well. But my best moment of 2020, hands down, has to be Mo Salah against Man United. Because that was the game where we all started. Now, guaranteed, I was probably singing "We're going to win the league" quietly onto myself. I believe I even done it on the podcast.
I know about quietly. We can go back in the pause. I'm sure.
All right. Calm down. All right. Throwing me under the bus already. But yeah, definitely. Mo Salah at Anfield against Daniel James. What an assist from Becker. The celebration. We're gonna win the league. We're gonna win the league. And that chorus just going around the stadium. Oh, God. If you could take me back in time to that moment right now, the hairs on my arms, and I have plenty of them, are all standing to attention.
This is why we do not do video, people. Okay. Yeah, you know what? That's funny because I have the same exact one. I think because it was United's, and I was just getting that, you guys know me, I'm a worrier. So, and that was like when, they were constantly crossing the ball in, and it was just like a bad bounce can kind of like make the game tight. And that goal happens. First of all, I hate United with a passion. To me, that's a even bigger rivalry than like the Everton game and stuff like that. To me, it's like United.
Yeah.
To beat him, and as worried as I am, that's the first time I got the feeling that like, holy shit, this is happening.
Yeah.
Before then I was like, you never know, because we had the thing the year before, lost by a point and stuff. I think that was the moments that I felt
the realization.
Yeah, and I think it was like, this shit is happening. And not only that, like the whole, like the release of nerves from like, we won the freaking game, 3 points, and then like you say, at the same time you hear the crowds like, like singing, and I'm like, holy shit, this shit is happening. And I think that was probably like the moment for me. And that was early in the year. That was like January. Like,
that was January. We're going all the way back to the 19th, I think it was. Yeah.
So, that's the thing. It's been some kind of a weird ass year, and we'll see what 2021 brings, obviously. But so let me ask you guys this. This time we'll start with you, Jamie. Like, when you 10 years from now, you look back at 2020, like what will you say? Or, like a little Mulholland comes over, let's say, you're like, Dad, what the hell happened in 2020? What are you saying?
What do you say? It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I don't know.
That would probably fit perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Personally, I've had a really trying year. It was good. It was great. Then it was March. My wife and I's wedding anniversary is the 17th of March. So the pandemic sort of social distancing thing kind of happened on St. Patrick's Day. So all the, bars and restaurants shut on that day. And that was our wedding anniversary, stuck inside, and all these little things will fade off into the distance. You know, it's a very trying year for everyone, and it's just one of those things. It's nice to see the back of it. It'll be nice to remember it in hindsight, hopefully with rose-tinted glasses, because we're still stuck here in the minute in 2020. So it'll be good to look back on in 10 years' time, I guess. You know, it's certainly one for the books. It's a mad time, crazy times. So yeah, best of times, worst of times. There you go.
Yeah, I think that's a really perfect one, really. How about you, Parker?
Overall, best moment of the year.
No, I mean, like I say, 10 years from now, when you're drinking again at 11 a.m., how will you go? How will you go back to 2020 and reflect?
I mean, I would say it's the year I bought my house. I bought a house just before everything shut down, so that's kind of been what the most of my year's been, is just like readjusting to living alone again and kind of all that stuff for me. So overall, something positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an odd year. I mean, I know personally, I hate to say this, but especially in the beginning, I mean, because I work from home now, and I have been for the last probably like 4 or 5 years or whatever. But before then, like I had like a retail career where the hours are all jacked up. Probably missed a lot of family time. I hate to say it, I did enjoy that first month where my oldest was back home from college and stuff too, and you were locked in the house, and it was just like great family time for like a month and a half. And afterwards, it was just like, okay, now we can't freaking go anywhere though. It was good to catch up, especially with my oldest, like to have that time back again. So I was almost like, this is not that bad. But yeah, when you look back, it almost, even now when you think about it, I mean, I don't know if you guys get the same feeling. Like I watch a movie and people like hug, and I'm like, whoa, like
what do you think you're doing?
Watch it over there. What's going on? So
when I see people sharing drinks and stuff on TV, I'm like, whoa, hey, well, you can't be doing that. It's 2020.
Hold on.
Yeah, it just feels like odd. It's just like a whole surreal. If it was a movie, you would turn it off halfway thinking it's too much bullshit. But I think looking back, it's just gonna be like, glad it's over. But like like Jamie's saying, I think, let's say 10, 15 years from now, you will definitely remember 2020 distinctly. Between the other years, like the other ones might be a muddle. We're like, was that 2021, 2022? But you'll definitely freaking remember 2020. So let me ask you guys this, because I know, like personally, I did. But in terms of sports, what did you learn about yourself in terms of like, how much it affects your life? Because when it was taken away, I think that was probably one of the bigger shockers than not being able to go out to eat or whatever. But so Parker, let's start with you. Like, what did you learn about yourself in terms of like sports?
I mean, I really recognized and reassured with myself how big of a role sports has played in my life. I mean, I played a sport almost every season from the age of 5 till 18. So I mean, I grew up playing sports, and I guess maybe it's not that I didn't realize, but more so that it didn't really click with me that like how bored I'd be without it. Because there was those first, what was it, 2 months or so of the pandemic when there was just absolutely no sports going on whatsoever, and I was bored as hell. I was constantly watching something on Netflix, on Hulu, YouTube, just keeping it rolling all day long. I was glued to my couch, and I was bored as hell, to put it bluntly. So I think it just made me recognize like how central and how important sports are to me as a person.
How about you, Jamie?
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive eye opener for me personally. Sports to me means everything. When I moved over to the States 6 years ago, it was very important for me to find that hub, that central locale for my passion, sport, soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, round ball. And it was a big thing for me to meet new friends and to get myself invested in that sort of sporting family, you know, that tradition of going out to the pub or going to your mate's house and having your breakfast, having your cup of coffee, or if you're at the pub, having a couple of beverages and enjoying the sport, enjoying that 90 minutes of relief and all the rest. So when something like that was taken away, it was just kind of really disheartening, and it felt like a part of me had been stolen. And you know, it was, but you know, on the flip side of all that, it also pointed out the more important things in life, and my own mental health and my own physical health and all the rest. And you know, like I said, 2020 was a trying year for me personally. I actually, not that anybody needs to know or care or have a sad story for me, but I had corona. It was not pleasant, and I got off lightly. I didn't have the breathing difficulties or anything like that. But it was horrible and worrying. So when that sort of stuff happens, it makes you open your eyes to the fact that maybe you did take all this for granted. Even though I was out there every weekend being a loud and proud Red, singing and enjoying everything to the best of my ability, you still take it for granted, you know, because nobody would have known that it could have been taken away from us. And when it did, you know, it forced you to look at outside things like your life in general, your happiness in general, your other pastimes, not just the ones you love the most, like soccer, like Liverpool. So yeah, it's a mad year, and it definitely won't be forgotten in a hurry. So yeah, you know, to everyone out there listening, and all those Liverpool fans all over the world, you know, I'm sure they can echo those thoughts, because, you know, everybody will have a similar story. Everybody will have a different story. But in general, I feel like it's a 50-50 thing, you know. You love the sport. It was mad when it was taken away, but it also makes you appreciate the sport itself and everything else in life, you know, because it was just so mental, you know. It's so unheard of. It's just crazy, you know.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you kind of like brought that up, because I felt the same way in terms of like the void it left behind when sports was gone, when Liverpool was gone, is huge. But then I also realized, man, I spent way too much time watching sports, like of other things, and almost like I find myself like finding a lot more time for other things, like you know, personal stuff, other hobbies and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I probably should have made more time for this shit to start with. And I'm not only talking like Liverpool. I'm the kind of guy that, you know, like if I turn the TV on, first thing I'm looking, you know, I have like Xfinity. I just go to sports, soccer, and it could be like a bullshit match, and I'll end up watching it. And that's one thing I think I realized. Like, it's fine to have it in the background as you're doing something, but like almost like investing too much time on watching some stuff that I probably don't have to. But at the same time, it also kind of showed me like how important like it kind of almost like carried me through it too. I mean, you kind of stuck at home, not much interaction. I mean, I work from home pretty much over the computer mostly anyway, like not even like a lot of like phone calls or anything like that, and a lot of like emailing and stuff. So not very personal, but you know, our, you know, American Scouser podcasts, and you know, the American Scouser website community, you know, our Discord channel, you know, a lot of Let's Say America, we still communicate and stuff like that. It's almost like that community and conversation kind of like, because we kind of share the same feelings when it comes to, you know, when are they going to come back, or when they were back, at least we're celebrating together. It's almost like, you know, showed how important that community is. Like those like friendships you form, even though some of us have never personally met, hopefully eventually will. But so it was kind of like an eye-opener. But I definitely agree, while it showed, man, I miss it so much and it means a lot, it also opened my eyes a little bit to, you know, what else is out there, and you got to kind of appreciate everything else is out there and make time for it. Because like you're saying, we kind of probably take it for granted. So, and this could be the most emotional and heart-to-heart moment of the episode
of the podcast
we have ever recorded.
Thanks, 2020.
So let's get away from the shit. So let's go ahead.
I think it's talent as well. I think it's talent as well, Timucin. I think it's particularly telling that "You'll Never Walk Alone," our anthem, has sort of become a COVID-19, the year 2020 anthem. You know, it certainly has back in the UK. You know, "You'll Never Walk Alone." It was never. It's not just a song; it's our anthem. You know, that's those words echo so true, and have done. They've been used. You know, TV shows have used them. I think my wife showed me Grey's Anatomy had a "You'll Never Walk Alone" episode, and it didn't even have the song. Didn't even have the "You'll Never Walk Alone" song in it. So,
and you watched the whole episode waiting for the song, didn't you?
You're damn right I did.
Sitting there, is it? Oh,
how could they do that? You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely telling that, you know, our club and our ethos has gotten us through these times, you know, and like you're saying, that community, that togetherness all around the world, even though you haven't met these people on Facebook, you haven't met these people online, you're still conversing with them because that's our only outlet now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't go down to the shops, can't go down to the pub. You're afraid to have a conversation with people unless you're, 12 feet away. So yeah, it's just crazy times. I wouldn't change it for the world. Because it brings out, it's brought out the best in all of us. You know, it really has. I think this trying time, there's got to be some good that comes out of it. And if that means a 10-minute emotional spell on the podcast that we all get a wee love in, and instead of loving Bobby Firmino, we can all love each other. How about that?
Yeah, if that's all the listeners have to suffer through, that would be the best part of their 2020, probably. So let's look ahead real quick before we kind of like wrap it up. And we're like 12 hours away from like 2021. I give you one trophy in 2021. Which one you taking, Jamie? Because I think last year, if I asked you this, it was a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
So which one are you taking? You got one trophy to pick. You can't pick the European Cup for Ireland or some shit like that. So that don't go ahead. We're talking for Liverpool.
Yeah. I guess if I'm being picky, I'd kind of want, I don't know, maybe the FA.
You haven't get you with this.
Maybe the FA Cup. If we've won everything else.
Sprinkle that in.
Sprinkle the FA Cup in along with the double. I mean, I'm not being picky. We'll take the World Cup. We'll take the Intertoto Cup. We'll take whatever the bloody hell they call it. Like, was it Shankly or Paisley who said, "Send the team from Mars"? We can have the Mars interplanetary championship game. I don't know. I don't care. Just sign me up for more football.
Which one are you getting, Parker? Or are you going to sidestep like Jamie just did? He already did the move, so you have to pick one.
I'll give an answer. I think the Champions League, personally, as much as it would be great to back-to-back win the Prem, I think just being able to rub it in more that, we have 7 Champions Leagues now above whoever's next is 3?
7th heaven. Wouldn't that be lovely?
I think being able to brag about that would be just so nice.
I think I'm taking the Premier League. I think we won the Champions League, the World Cup, whatever. I mean, we won pretty much every freaking thing before. I just want to win the Premier League again and, kind of show that it was not just a fluke, 1 year thing. We suddenly had a run, just say we're freaking dominant. We're staying here, not going anywhere. Kind of shove it in the face of Chelsea fans who spelt billions and United fans who think they're going to get back on their perch and shit like that. So I think I'd rather take the Premier League and just take the back-to-back. And
Everton. Let's not forget Everton, who haven't won a trophy since 1995.
I'm not even worried about
they couldn't win an egg cup in a raffle, could they?
They haven't won a trophy as long as I've been alive. That'll put it into perspective for you guys.
Well, gentlemen, and to all the listeners, good or bad, at least we're putting 2020 behind us. Looking ahead to 2021. Thank you for all your support throughout the year by listening, commenting, liking, and sharing all that stuff we do. Continue the support. We're very appreciative of it. And like we were talking earlier, really means a lot having this community together, people to kind of share this stuff together. And really it has, I'm not exaggerating when I say I think pretty much helped a lot of us go through 2020. So, gentlemen, thank you.
Here,
Have a
here,
happy New
here,
Year.
here. Well said, Tim.
And we'll do the lame joke and say, see you guys next year. You want to sing on the way out there? You got a New Year's song for us, Jamie?
Oh, no, just You'll Never Walk Alone, lads. Come on. Here we go. Campeones, campeones, campeones.
Happy New Year, everybody.
All right.